Atta sat on the bridge of the medical frigate, his eyes drifting across flickering console lights as the ship's power distribution tried to reroute from the latest wave of gravitational disruptions. The vessel was named Mercy's Gift, a humanitarian craft that had ventured to the edges of imperial space to deliver medical supplies. Now, however, it hovered precariously near a monstrous gravity well, a cosmic anomaly formed by a collapsed planetoid, rendering normal flight patterns useless. Atta fought to keep the thrusters balanced as the ship trembled under invisible tidal forces. He glanced over his shoulder at Dr. Rihanna Alcine, who was fastening herself to a seat behind the navigation console with quick, nervous movements. Her eyes were locked on the sensor readouts. Embossed on her uniform was the universal symbol of the Humanitarian Aid Corps, a stylized caduceus, encircled by a wreath of olive leaves. No one had expected to be trapped so far from a friendly port. The imperial blockade had sealed off all known exits from the system, and now Mercy's Gift was caught between a swirling cosmic trap and a string of warships that would not hesitate to open fire. Despite the hopelessness that nudged at the edges of their minds, the crew knew they had to find a path through. A jolt of turbulence made Atta's stomach clench. The overhead lights flickered, and the sensors flared an alert. They had discovered something else in the gravity well. Large fragments of ice and rock swirling in a slow, chaotic orbit. With the imperial blockade perched in geostationary positions around the system, the blockade's admiral must have assumed any attempt to escape would be suicidal. The frigate's crew had only a skeleton route charted, one that demanded near impossible piloting amid the swirling debris. Dr. Elzen exhaled slowly and returned her focus to her monitors. Hull integrity is still acceptable, but we're going to need localized shield boosters if we get any closer to the core. She hoped Atta, legendary for his improvisational gifts, had a new trick. Everyone had heard stories. He was the pilot you hired when delicate landings on asteroid outposts were required, or when you needed to hide from a passing pirate frigate in an ion storm. But the gravity well was a different kind of monster altogether. Atta's voice came through the tense hush. I can keep us stable, barely, but eventually, the gravitational gradient will cripple our thrusters. We can shift our shield strength to offset some of that, maybe last another few hours. He paused. You and I both know a confrontation with those imperial warships won't end well. We don't have weapons. We're not even supposed to. This is a hospital frigate, not a fighter. Captain Shem, who had been standing quietly near the back of the bridge, stepped forward. Gray hair framed a face lined with the stress of too many rescue missions and too many illusions shattered. We have something those warships don't. The principle of compassion. We're not here to kill or conquer. We're here to save lives. But, Shem added with a wry smile, compassion goes hand in hand with ingenuity. We may have no guns, but we have medical supplies that can affect more than just patients if used properly. No one yet understood exactly what that meant, but they could sense what Shem was leading toward. A new plan. One that might allow them to slip through the blockade. The captain's background included advanced physics, an unorthodox path for a humanitarian caretaker. But Shem had found that space was teeming with anomalies that required scientific expertise to navigate. It was precisely why Mercy's Gift had accepted the mission to bring relief supplies to distant colonies ravaged by plague. While their main cargo was medical technology, energy sabers, and protective suits, the ship also possessed specialized systems for dealing with infectious outbreaks in low-oxygen environments and compromised hulls, including advanced tractor beams able to transport fragile cargo with extreme precision. Shem stepped to a console near Atal's station, scanning the lines of data as the sensors updated. Look here, the captain said, pointing to a swirling cluster of green digital echoes. Gravitational anomalies can be harnessed. Ships with conventional drives have to fight them. But we have something else, a specialized field projector for stabilizing patients in zero-G surgeries. It can generate isolated pockets of artificial gravity. I wonder if we can rig it to push or pull large chunks of debris. We could create a gravitational slingshot that disrupts the blockade's orbital formations, or even cause collisions. Atta blinked. You want to fling chunks of rock at the imperial blockade using a field projector meant for medical procedures? Shem shrugged. Yes, if we can mask the energy signature, it won't look like a weapon system. We're not violating our pacifist code. Technically, we're redirecting large pieces of hazardous debris. Then, after we've advanced far enough, we could use the same principle to sling ourselves free of the weld's pull. Dr. Alzine's eyebrows knitted, but her lips curled in a faint smile. That might work in theory, but we need precise calculations. An error of a fraction of a degree, and those rocks will miss the warships entirely, or worse, smash into us. Atta's pulse quickened. The plan had high risk, but the possibility of using a humane technology in an ingenious, non-lethal way was exactly the kind of puzzle he couldn't resist. He opened a new window on his console, scribbling equations and angles. I'll need to fine-tune the approach. We have to account for the gravitational flux from that collapsed planetoid. We also have to ensure that the Imperials can't see what we're doing until it's too late. We'll keep a minimal power signature, Shem said. Read through all excess energy to the field projector when we're ready. Dr. Elson, you handle ensuring the rest of the medical wards remain functional. We can't have patients losing life support while we fiddle with the projector. A quiet beep signaled the presence of another occupant on the communications link. It was Master Engineer Dieter, who had been working below in the engineering bay. His voice crackled through the intercom. I overheard the plan. I'm in. But I have to warn you, any high-intensity gravitational manipulations will pull big chunks of junk from that belt. We'll have to time it just right to avoid getting battered ourselves. Shem nodded. Understood. Keep an eye on the coolant levels in the emitter. If that overheats, we'll be in real trouble. In the next hours, the crew worked tirelessly. They programmed new flight paths that would weave among the swirling debris. They analyzed how much mass the field projector could shift at once, and how to mask that surge of power from the Imperial blockader's sensors. Long-range scans of the blockade revealed it was composed of 6 warships, arranged around the star's L2 Lagrange point, forming a net that any escaping vessel would have to cross. 2 dreadnoughts flanked the formation, each armed with enough conventional firepower to reduce Mercy's gift to stealth, and subterfuge, not brute force, would be the only way through. Eventually, they had their plan. Mercy's gift would remain near the gravitational nexus, in a vantage point that seemed hopelessly trapped. Using minimal power to appear helpless, they would wait for the next wave of gravitational surges. At the precise moment, Atta would link the specialized tractor beams with a field projector, harnessing the swirling asteroid's momentum so that lumps of rock, ice, and metal would slingshot across space, carefully aimed to pass by the warship's sensor blind spots. The debris wouldn't necessarily destroy the warships. It didn't have to. Even slight collisions with the blockader's hulls, or force course corrections amid the chaos of random, incoming meteor chunks, would spark confusion. The Imperials would have to break formation to avoid major damage. In that gap, Mercy's gift could attempt escape. As the final hours ticked away, Dr. Alson roamed the corridors of the frigate, whispering gentle reassurances to the civilians aboard, refugees picked up from a plague-stricken station. Many of them were asleep in stacked bunks, drifting in and out of sedation to manage their fevers. The hum of ventilators and intravenous pumps harmonized with the low thrum of the ship's engines. She found comfort in the idea that they were still fulfilling their mission, providing aid, healing the wounded. Even if the next gambit was dangerous, it was a risk they had no choice but to take. If they surrendered to the Empire, the best outcome was internment, and the worst, an abrupt end to their humanitarian venture. Finally, Mercy's gift pivoted into position at the edge of the swirling debris field. Outside, the cosmic phenomenon glowed faintly, as if awaiting the crew's daring move. Shem leaned over Atta's shoulder, bracing against the pilot's seat as the frigate shuddered. Generate the artificial gravity well on that big chunk at our 9 o'clock, Shem instructed. Then adjust the angle slightly for the smaller chunk to the right. Let them converge, and once they're at the correct velocity, cut the beam. That should launch them on a partial elliptical path. Sweat lined Atah's brow. His eyes flickered across readouts and swiftly recalculated vectors as unprecedented data spooled in. With a rush of adrenaline, he engaged the modified field projector. Mercy's gift vibrated as the internal systems roared to life, concentrating power into a specialized module that had never been used this way before. In the viewport, a massive slab of rock, easily the size of a destroyer's hull, began drifting faster. A swirl of cosmic dust eddied around it, responding to the unnatural gravity shift. "Steady," Atah whispered. "Almost there." In an instant, he deactivated the beam, and the chunk careened away, following the course he'd computed, straight toward the leading edge of the Imperial formation. Precisely as planned, the second chunk followed behind at a slightly different angle. Meanwhile, Shem reconfigured the shield arrays to create a pocket funnel that would keep Mercy's gift from being struck by stray bits of debris. "The Imperials are reacting," Dr. Alcine said, her voice hushed as she monitored their sensor feed. Indeed, the warships began shifting position to avoid the incoming fragments. The two dreadnoughts fired short bursts of their engines to sidestep the debris, messing up the blockade's meticulously arranged net. Another pair of smaller cruisers angled around to intercept the threat, presumably to neutralize it with their ship-to-ship weapons. But these actions scattered the formation. Atah seized the moment. Engaging thrusters. Everyone brace. In a swirl of starlight, Mercy's gift angled away from the cosmic sinkhole. Riding the precise slipstream of gravitational turbulence the crew had calculated, the pilot hammered the emergency thrusters, weaving through the debris field that was now in a controlled but chaotic dance. Debris soared past them, narrowly missing their own hull. But crucially, the Imperial blockade's sensor sweeps were flooded with false readings. Chunks of icy rock and metallic fragments bounced off each other or soared unpredictably, forcing the Imperials to guess which were random debris and which might have a frigate hidden. The dreadnoughts attempted to regroup, but collided with their own confusion. They fired a volley of railgun bursts at the largest incoming boulder, shattering it into smaller shards. Though the shards were not as deadly, they still posed a threat, peppering the nearby cruisers with high-velocity debris. At this point, the Imperials scrambled to protect themselves. Bitar's voice echoed through the comms from the engineering deck. "The drives are overheating. If we remain in these chaotic fields for too long—" Atah cut him off. "Understood. We'll be out in under a minute." Another deep rumble rippled through the hull. The swirling gravitational eddies taxed Mercy's gift systems, alternating massive gift forces that threatened to wrench the ship off course. In a daring maneuver, Atah used the field projector in reverse, generating a micro-repulsion effect on the largest approaching rock. This prevented a lethal collision at the last second. The entire crew breathed shallowly as the medical frigate soared free from the swirling ring of debris and out into more navigable space. Then they saw the blockade's thrashing shapes behind them. Warships, pinned down by the destructive swirl. Cheers erupted from the bridge. A wave of relief coursed through Dr. Alcine's limbs. She clasped Shem's forearm, a silent token of victory. Though the Imperials still had more than enough firepower to turn them into space dust, the blockade's integrity had been broken. Mercy's gift now had a route onward. They had accomplished it without firing a single shot. Yet the chase wasn't over. The Imperials, regrouping, launched small interceptors to pursue the frigate. Alarms blared once more. Ships that small would be faster than the big warships. They threatened to catch Mercy's gift before it could make a jump to FTL. Stealth wouldn't be enough to outrun them. Shem grimaced, tapping a console to reveal the interceptor's approach vectors. The pilot's voice carried a note of resignation. "We still might not outrun them. Our main engine took damage from the gravity well. I can't get us to FTL speed for another 5 minutes. Those fighters will be on us in 2. Silence fell across the bridge. They had come too far and risked too much to be captured now. Captain Shem closed their eyes, searching for an answer. We used debris once. Maybe we can do it again, only more creatively. As if reading Shem's mind, Dr. Alcine recalled the supply logs. They had dozens of stasis pods designed for delivering fragile vaccines or cryogenically transporting the critically ill. The pods were equipped with short-range repulsor systems for stable handling. She turned to the captain. We can repurpose the stasis pods into decoys. If we can attach sensor reflectors, we might trick the interceptors into chasing them long enough for us to go FTL. In the next moments, Dr. Alcine sprinted to the cargo bay with a small team, carefully removing the core stasis pods, still unused. Armed with portable reflectors whose original purpose was to amplify signals in triage missions, the crew affixed them to the exterior of the pods. Swift modifications turned each pod into a small, autonomous craft that could register on scanners as a legitimate threat. As Mercy's gift powered up for its emergency jump, the cargo bay doors yawned open. One by one, the stasis pods ejected. The pods, glimmering with electronic illusions, soared away from the frigate like seeds caught in the wind. From the interceptor's vantage, these pods resembled smaller fighter drones or newly launched missiles. The Imperial pilots immediately locked onto these targets, releasing lasers or ballistic bursts. An unsuspecting pilot or sensor suite might believe they were under attack by multiple small craft. While the interceptors were busy, the medical frigate gained precious distance. Back on the bridge, the tension was explosive. 5 seconds until we can jump, Atta announced. Dr. Olson, panting from her sprint back, took a seat and watched the sensor feed. The interceptors fired relentlessly at the pods, each destroyed in bright bursts. The strategy had consumed vital resources, but it bought them the time they needed. A crackling wave ran across the ship's console. The bright swirl of FTL readiness glowed in a ring around the main control panel. Without hesitation, Atta triggered the jump. A kaleidoscopic pattern enveloped the viewport. The engines howled, momentarily drowning out every other sound. Then everything went silent. They were gone. It took a few minutes for the vibrations to settle, for the starfield to reorient as Mercy's gift emerged from its brief transition to faster-than-light travel. A hush settled across the bridge, replaced quickly by a chorus of relief. They had escaped the blockade and crippled the Empire's imposing net, if only temporarily, through a series of cunning illusions and gravitational manipulations rather than brute force. Dr. Alcine let out an unsteady breath, allowing a weight to slip off her shoulders. "Status?" Shem asked. Their eyes searched for any sign of damage. Dieter's voice buzzed across the comm line. "Main drives are functioning, though stressed. Hull integrity is compromised in a few spots, but we're mostly intact. We can make it back to a friendly port for proper repairs. No sign of Imperial pursuit in this sector, for now at least. We're free." A collective wave of relief passed through them. The blockade was still out there, but it was fractured, and the Empire would be forced to reevaluate how easily a peaceful vessel could disrupt their carefully orchestrated intimidation. Captain Shem reflected on the moral significance of the victory. They had used their wits, the environment, and tools of healing to outthink a brutal war machine, all while adhering to the core principle of not firing a single destructive shot. Shem turned to Dr. Alcine. "Check on the patients. Make sure nobody was harmed by the surges. Between the debris slingshot and the abrupt FTL, some of them might need immediate care." Dr. Alcine nodded quickly and headed to the triage center. She was met with a wave of anxious I-6 civilians, awakened by vibrations and unnatural lurches. Nurses and med techs were already on the job, scanning, dosing mild sedatives, and rewriting treatment plans. Despite the fear, none of the patients showed signs of severe trauma from the escape maneuvers. Relief softened the lines on Dr. Alcine's face. they could resume their humanitarian mission, albeit with new scars. Up on the bridge, Ata pulled off his headset and slumped in the pilot's chair. "Now that we can catch our breath," he said, "does anyone else feel a rush knowing we gave an entire Imperial squadron a black eye without firing so much as a sidearm?" Shem gave a small, weary grin. "That's the wonder of true ingenuity. Humanitarian ships don't have to be powerless. We study life science, gravitational physics, and medical technology. We find clever ways to solve problems that the Empire's linear thinking can't anticipate. That's what we stand for. Our mission remains saving lives, not taking them." "That's the beauty, Captain," Dr. Alcine added, rejoining them with a medical pad. "We used what we had at our disposal: stasis pods, tractor beams, even micro-artificial gravity fields. None of it was designed to harm anyone, yet, arranged in the right configuration, it changed the course of a battle." Shem rubbed tired eyes. "We can't remain in this system for too long. The Empire will likely regroup and follow us. We need to contact the rest of the aid corps. The blockade's presence indicates an attempt by the Empire to siege those colonies. We can't allow that, especially if people there are sick and starving." With that directive, Mercy's gift charted a path deeper into unaligned territory, searching for friendly stations and governments that might help shield them. Every so often, the crew rechecked the sensor scans, expecting to see an Imperial chase group on their heels, but the scans showed no one behind them. It was possible the Imperials were too busy cleaning up the aftermath of the debris shower or reassembling their blockade formation. Whatever the reason, the frigate's luck held. On the second day out from the contested system, they encountered a battered civilian transport, its engines sputtering. The vessel's transponder identified it as the Pilgrim Light, filled with refugees fleeing a conflict zone deeper in Imperial space. Shem immediately offered assistance, dispatching Dr. Alcine and her staff to administer emergency medical scans. With the engine expertise of Dieter and Ata, Mercy's gift escorted the Pilgrim Light to a neutral outpost. In those hours of merging small crews and frightened passengers, the true purpose of Mercy's gift shone. No matter how dire the situation, they always offered help. Indeed, the frigate's battered hull and overclocked systems served as living proof that a humanitarian mission can pierce even the harshest gloom. When they finally arrived at the neutral outpost, a ring-shaped station orbiting an emerald gas giant, Shem discovered that rumors were already circulating. An unarmed medical ship had humiliated an Imperial blockade, forcing them to reallocate resources and reduce the siege on the frontier. Whispers of the frigate's feet rippled through the station's corridors, traveling from dockworkers to captains in the hangars and from humble traders to ambassadors. Though the Empire attempted to belittle the incident or brand the frigate as saboteurs, the truth was impossible to suppress. A purely humanitarian vessel had challenged the Empire's might and escaped because of the brilliant use of rescue tools. Seated at a small table in the outpost's cafeteria, Shem, Dr. Alcine, Ata, and Dieter were able to share a moment's rest. Over plates of rehydrated protein rations, they recalled every heartbeat of that wild journey. The initial wave of fear had softened into a story told in half-laughs and quiet wonder. "Who'd have thought," Dr. Alcine mused, "we'd turn a medical projector into a mass driver for asteroids?" Ata shrugged with a grin. "Desperation sends us to the strangest solutions. But I'll say this, it was worth it just to see the look on those warships' sensor data when they found themselves pelted by cosmic rubble." Dieter gave a short laugh. "We still have a lot of repairs ahead. Mercy's gift has a cracked dorsal brace and unstable reactor couplings, but if we can fix her up, I bet she's got more miracles in store." Captain Shem listened, arms folded. They thought about how many rescue missions remained undone, how many blockades might still stand, and how many secrets the Empire still hid. "We'll have to be careful. The Empire will be searching for us now more than ever. But we've proven something bigger. You don't need to wage war in the traditional sense to make a difference. Knowledge, empathy, and quick thinking are mightier than mountains of weaponry. The next day, Mercy's Gift departed the outpost with fresh supplies and a newly reinforced hull brace. Word of their improvised stunt had spread, and some smaller local governments silently agreed to help them with safe passage. The crew's hope flared anew as they traveled the star lines delivering vaccines, relief packages, and advanced treatments. They heard stories of the imperial blockade's partial collapse, how multiple warships had been damaged by debris that continued to swirl in unpredictable patterns, requiring 6 more cruisers to be diverted for relief duties of their own. The Empire might never publicly admit how one unarmed medical ship had mucked up their logistics, but the galaxy was beginning to talk. Soon, Mercy's Gift found itself at the edge of a quarantine colony in the Asteron Belt, one that had gone too long without medical help. Bills of safe passage were quietly arranged through rebel sympathizers in the Imperial Navy. Officials who had grown uneasy about the Empire's heavy-handed tactics. When the frigate entered orbit, local authorities greeted them with a combination of relief and awe. Though the docking procedures were routine, the colonists wearing ragged clothes gazed at the frigate's humanitarian emblem and whispered about the legendary vessel that had outsmarted warships. Dr. Alson aligned with local medics and swiftly established triage centers. The plague on the colony was in an advanced phase, but the vaccines from the frigate still had a chance to save many lives, wiry hospital cots filled with the frail and fever-stricken. Hours turned into days of unceasing labor as the crew delivered supplies, performed emergency surgeries, and comforted families. The presence of the frigate reignited sparkles of hope in a population that had nearly given up. Meanwhile, Imperial intelligence networks were surely gathering data. Perhaps interceptors would show up at the colony again, testing the skill of Mercy's Gift, or maybe the Empire would tighten its net. But in that moment, the crew and the populace on the ground moved wholeheartedly toward healing. They distributed antibiotic boosters, purified water systems, and set up renewable food sources to sustain the population after the immediate crisis passed. For the first time in months, the colony's inhabitants dared to dream of a future not overshadowed by disease or unstoppable empire. As Mercy's Gift departed the belt, the hold practically empty with the relief materials spent, Shem made certain to leave behind instructions for building small-scale versions of the stasis pods that had proven so versatile. "We use them as decoys," Shem explained to the colony's engineers. "But they're also brilliant for preserving critical medicine or fragile foods. That might make all the difference here." With each new jump, Mercy's Gift ventured further from the blockade that once cornered them near the monstrous gravity well. Their responsibilities grew, forming something akin to a small humanitarian network of alliances. Each time rumors would resurface, the Empire reorganizing, deploying new fleets, investing in better scanning technology to prevent the tricks Mercy's Gift had used. But no matter how hard the Imperials tried, they couldn't force this single frigate to abandon its cause. For each new measure the Empire developed, the crew countered it with fresh thinking born from kindness and necessity. In the confining hush of the bridge, not long after dropping supplies at another beleaguered station, Shem studied a new star chart. "We can't keep outrunning them forever. Eventually we'll need to address the root cause of these blockades. The question is, how?" Ata pivoted in the pilot's seat. "We're a symbol now. People out there believe in us. In some ways, that's more powerful than any weapon. The Empire has found we can't be controlled by their intimidation, and that knowledge will spread." Dr. Alson lowered her voice. "The next time we face them, we might not have the advantage of a cosmic gravity well to create illusions. We might not have enough stasis pods. We'll need another plan, or maybe a coalition of allies who see that we can stand up to tyranny without gunfire." The conversation lingered on that question as Mercy's Gift soared through silent stretches of space. Over the next few months, they visited a half-dozen star systems, each with its own crises and unique threats. They evaded Imperial patrols, negotiated safe passage with local wardens, and continued developing unorthodox applications for their medical technology. Step by step, they inspired rebellion in hearts that had once only known fear. Their cunning maneuvers brought entire communities of disenfranchised starfarers together under the banner of pacifism, laced with daring. Observers spoke reverently of how Mercy's gift had crippled an entire blockade, not by matching the Empire's violence, but by turning the improbable into reality. Eventually, the fugitive frigate found a modest harbor, an ancient station drifting in the orbit of a red dwarf star, and the crew disembarked for a short time. Some tested the station's marketplace for fresh produce or new power modules. Others simply needed a moment under artificial sunlight, away from the hum of the engines. A gathering formed around Shem, Dr. Alzen, and Ata at a cramped bar in the trade quarter. The barkeep recognized them by rumor alone, refusing to let them pay for anything. "To Mercy's gift," the barkeep said, raising a battered tin mug and a toast. "The ship that can do the impossible, helping the helpless, turning stones into thunder, and scaring off entire fleets." Shem, unused to such adulation, merely nodded gratefully, sipping the local brew. These were fleeting moments of respite. Soon they would be back to the rescue lines, forging new tactics to outwit the colossus that was the Empire. But for now, they indulged in the warmth of camaraderie and the knowledge that, at least once, the unstoppable had been stopped without a single violent shot. As they prepared to depart the station, the old barkeep sent them off with a single parting gift, a chipped plaque whose inscription rang with optimism. The words, originally penned by an ancient philosopher, highlighted the power of inventive compassion over brute force. Emblazoned on it was a simple phrase that seemed to capture Mercy's gift's entire crusade. "No boundary is absolute to those who dare to hope." And with hope as their shield, Mercy's gift launched once more into the uncharted sea of stars. They carried relief supplies and the unwavering belief that hearts bound by empathy and intellect can prevail against the mightiest empire. No matter how large the blockade, how dead the vacuum, or how twisted the gravity well, the spirit that fueled that humanitarian ship would guide them toward the light, proving again and again that compassion, armed with practical imagination, can be the strongest force in the galaxy.